between the rich and the poor. They face the problem of lack of solidarity. If you have divisions like that, this is a problem of how you achieve solidarity in a divided state. But on the other hand, in most developed countries, middle-class projects have been implemented. So middle-class project, hegemonic project, within which a large middle class has to be created, is a perspective, a goal, an objective for most BRIC states. And that's what most BRIC states are working for. And this is where the state must play a role, it must have a hand. And then there are different regional differences within each of the BRIC states. We've already talked about it. Each of the BRIC states are divided into regions, and these regions are unequal. Let us say in Russia, Russia is a divided country. In Russia, the level of the salary level in Moscow is 3 times higher than in some other regions of the Russian Federation. So the difference is 3 times in the living standards between the capital and other regions in Russia. A great difference. The government tries to close the gap between the regions, but it's a lot of work, a lot of investment. It requires the development of infrastructure. It requires an equalization institutions and equalization policies that harness not only private capital, but also the resources at the disposal of the state. So, most of the BRIC states face grave problems, have common problems that they have to solve, and these are, in most cases, the problems of reproduction. They must employ the state as a positive instrument that can help them solve the problem, the policy of childhood, the policy of development of education as one of the instruments of reproduction, the policy of health care, which is also should be pursued by the state, and the policy of solidarity within society, without obviously losing the attainments of democracy. Thank you.
Let's do it 5 minutes. Hang on. Yes. That's better. Now it's my privilege to present to you John Lee, who's professor at University of Nanjing in southern China, and also has a Oriental Daonology Institute. I asked him, what is Daonology? And he said it comes from Taoism. So it's a type of way he maybe explain it in this paper. And he's been working, he started off his career as a journalist and then moved over to anthropology. And he's been working on a lake in one of the most beautiful parts of China, which is Yunnan province. And as we were discussing, he told me that he has recently been doing some work in Mato Grosso on Chinese capitalists arriving there and essentially planting beans. So here we have a second social scientist who is actually doing some empirical work, or south-south if we want to call it that. So please.
First, thank you for having me here. This topic actually starts in 2006 while I was a journalist working for Chinese Xinhua News Agency. So it was one of the government-funded propagandist mouthpiece. But that experience is kind of unique. It has given me an opportunity to delve into a large corpus database of Chinese journalistic coverage of lake pollution, and I can see how the Chinese government, together with knowledge production organs, to produce certain kind of what I perceive knowledge. But before I analyze this context, I will give you just a few pictures to give you a very basic idea what the research is all about. You can see the lake is in southwest China, Yunnan province. This lake is pretty huge. And Yunnan prosperity and development pretty much depended on this lake. So you see in this case, Yunnan have used the lake many times to develop its economy. First, 20 years ago, they reclaimed the land from the lake. They learned it from Dutch people. They get the land from the lake and start to transform into arable lands, which is very futile process. And then in 1990s, when Chinese had the catastrophic industrialization process, they started to build a lot of factories, very polluting factories around the lake, using the lake as resources to cleanse as a manufacturing element. And then in 2000, they started using the lake as a tourist attraction. They built properties around the lake and also use the lake to what they call rejuvenate a Dian civilization. Dian is what they call Yunnanese culture. So here's the master plan. From this master plan, you can see how Chinese government envisioned the future and how to use the future to hijack the present and even sometimes the past. And when Chinese government doing all his master plans and especially about urbanization plans, somehow they use Western paradigms. As in this case, they try to build the lake as Oriental Geneva. But if you go to these places, you can see Oriental Geneva we're never like this. Right? And because of my doctoral research is around the lake, they have a very ornate, enriched mythology about a dragon in this lake. The people who live around this lake used to believe dragons live in this lake because the lake is really deep. So it's not Oriental Geneva at all. But Chinese government will always use this to orchestrate a new vacuum for development. And this will, if you can understand Chinese, you can see they really articulate what they're thinking in their minds. This actually means they farewell to traditional past, marching towards standardized future. 和传统的昨天告别，向规范的未来迈进。So it's very ironic. They just put it on the wall, and this wall, together with the village behind it, all flattened in 2009. Because they want to flatten all the villagers around the lake and replace with ring roads, so you can drive around the lake to see a beautiful views. But I don't think it's very effective in terms of the pollution addressment. In 2010, another plan comes out. They're thinking using algae or water plants thrive on the polluting lake, using that plants to produce ecofuel. So they're thinking to use this pollution as resources to manufacture oil to sustain the city. Not only that, they're thinking using three parallel rivers water by linking the water with huge pipeline to Kunming. First, cleanse the water. Second, to sustain the gigantic new Kunming. So you see in this case, it's only the lake. But from the lake, you see how Chinese government doing this urbanization project, and how this urbanization, deeply flawed urbanization paradigm inflict environmental havoc in Southwest China and downward in Mekong region. And the three pedal rivers upstream of sceneries like this. These photos are taken in 2007. All the waters, all the glaciers, the Tibetan sacred mountains that melted and flowed down into river like this and into Lantang River, downward into Mekong River. So this is the lake. This is the water they're trying to divert. But the cautious, the Lantang River is the international river. So they changed the plan to get water from Jinshajiang River, which is a tributary of Yangtze River. And the water from finally will divert from Jinshajiang River eastward to Kunming to cleanse the lake. This is their plan. So from these pictures, you can see the Professor Mikhail mentioned the dilemma. I use trilemma to understand what Chinese government, what Vietnamese government, and sometimes probably modern laws are facing in this world on the run. When I say development trilemma, I try to give you an idea. Vietnamese government and Chinese central government always want to put three things together. We want to get three things down. First, they always want to pursue a development based on infinite growth, material abundance, presupposition. They always envision economy should be growth, keep on growing. And they want to build Vietnam as a modern city. So they use a lot of phrases like civilization, civilized, modernized, urbanized, phrases like that. So they want to have a free flow of modernity. Probably Obama calls it fluid modernity. And the second, they want to pursue prosperity accessible to all. And one fluid development paradigm fits all. So if you ask officials in Vietnam government, they would say, we represent common Vietnamese. We want them to enjoy every success of our national prosperity. So you can see Chinese government keep using phrases like free representation, harmonious society, and now it's trying to dream. They're always trying to harness people's conception of